Hello and welcome to our video lesson over pop cycles, the process that you're going to need to go through in order to get your observations done, where I come and visit you at your field placement and evaluate your teaching. But it is a whole process. And so I'm going to screen share so that we can go over this document together. I am going to link this document into this week's lesson, but it is also available here under this Pop Cycle tab on the class. So I'm going to open the Pop Cycle Steps document. That's what we're going to focus on today. Let me scooch this down a little bit here. Okay, and actually, why don't I go ahead and make it fill the whole screen? Okay, so there are 6 steps, okay? And I realize this is not underlined and that's going to bother me, so let me underline it. There are 6 steps and there are hyperlinks, okay? So step 1 is identifying dates and times. So you are going to need to communicate directly via email with me and your mentor teacher. Obviously, you can speak to your mentor teacher in person in order to schedule that actual observation, okay? But you and I also need to talk about a pre-conference that has to happen no less than 48 hours before the lesson. And then after the observation, we need to schedule a post-conference that needs to be no more than 72 hours after the lesson. So all of these things need to end up in the calendar on in step 1. And really what you just need to do is email me dates and times that would work for you for all of these items, and I will get those on the calendar for both of us. Okay, so that's step 1 is scheduling the pop cycle. P standing for pre-conference, O standing for observation, and P again standing for post-conference. Okay, so step 2 is planning and preparation. Once you've got your stuff scheduled and on the books, you're going to collaborate with your mentor teacher to identify the standard and content for the lesson. There's probably something specific they're going to want you to teach, but maybe not. It just depends. You're going to identify the lesson's assessment, meaning how will you know the students learned what you want them to know? How will you measure that? And you're going to complete the student assessment, a student achievement chart, or for short, the SAC. And it says see link at the bottom of the page. The SAC is on the last page. Okay. So you plan your assessment and then you jump down here to this full pop cycle packet. And you just need to scroll down a little bit. And there's the link to the student achievement chart. So let me open this for just a second. Okay, this might seem a little scary, but once you do it, once you'll have an understanding. I can also kind of walk you through this. So, before we have any pre-conference or anything, you should start working on this and working on what's called a pre-assessment. Okay, so whatever standard you're measuring for, you'd enter up here. Your objective for the lesson would be added here. And then you kind of have to think about with this project or whatever you're having the students create, what will student work look like that you will count as exceeding what you wanted them to learn? What will student work look like that meets what you want them to learn, right? And then what about students who aren't quite meeting, but they're approaching mastery of whatever you're trying to teach them? What will their work look like? And then a student who's really not, is kind of off the mark, like, or falls far below, what are the characteristics of their work? And so you're actually going to go in before we have our pre-conference and you're going to fill out this. What are the characteristics of student work? Okay. For exceeds, it might be, the student has created and developed a sense of personal meaning in the work, plus added texture and a good use of line. Okay, so maybe texture and line are the thing you're assessing for. So a meets, their work would just definitely have good use of line and texture, maybe as measured by use of 2 different textures and use of 2 different lines. styles of line. Okay, so that might be the what you put here for characteristics of student work. Approaches, maybe approaches only uses one kind of texture and one kind of line. And then falls far below, you struggle to find evidence of line or texture in the student's work. Maybe they also just didn't even finish the work or didn't even start the work, whatever. Okay, so you do all that before you teach anything. Then you're going to need to do a pre-assessment. Okay, so if you're wanting to find out what their understanding is of texture and line, well, for a pre-assessment, you might do just like a bell ringer or an exit ticket a day or so before you teach the lesson or before your pre-conference, where you're asking them create a drawing of something, right? You could say create a drawing of a flower or create a drawing of something you've seen outside. And I want you to try to use lots of different kinds of line and lots of different kinds of textures in your drawing. Okay. You don't give them any more instruction than that. You're doing a knowledge check. What do they already know about line? What do they already know about texture? Then you'll gather up those short, quick drawings and you'll put that information in here. Okay, let's say one kid does multiple styles of line, multiple textures, and creates this kind of personal meaning in their artwork. Well, they're going to be up here, right? So in their pre-assessment, let's say you had one kid. So you would put the number of students would be one. You would actually type that in here. What percent of that is that of the class? Okay, let's say it's I don't know, percents. Let's say there's 20 kids in the class. So that would be what, like 0.2% of the class, I think, if I'm doing my math right. I don't know. You might have to get out a calculator for this. I don't do stuff off the top of my head very well. And then you'd actually put the student name here. And then you'd go through all of these. Like if a kid, just only drew a stick figure with one type of line, then maybe their falls far below. Maybe these kids drew a stick figure, but they put a dress on the stick figure that had some kind of ruffled features on it that created a sense of texture, then those kids might be here. So your pre-assessment lives in this column. So then okay, I have one kid who already understands line and texture. I have three kids who understand and is really able to employ it well. I have three kids who understand it pretty well and seem to know what I'm talking about. I have some kids who really get line, but maybe they don't get texture or vice versa, and they live here. And then I have kids down here who, just a basic use of line only. Okay, so this needs to be filled out. Just the gray column needs to be filled out so you can share that with me. We can talk about it at your pre-conference. Okay, so there's a lot of logistics that have to go into getting this done on time. So let me hop back over here to this document. Okay, so we're still here in planning and preparation. So that student achievement chart, you need the pre-assessment column filled out, the description of student work in each mastery category, and then a complete assessment sample. So you want to do a student style work that would fall under that meets category. You create it. It's like a teacher sample, right? And you don't create it from your artistic level, you create it from a third grader's artistic level. So really try to put yourself in your student's shoes when creating that work. And then you need to prepare all materials required for the lesson. That might be a Google slide presentation. Maybe there's a worksheet you're going to hand out, any kind of instructions, the lesson plan, all that kind of stuff, right? Needs to be prepared. Okay, so then we move on to the pre-conference. You're going to meet with me. We do this online. It can happen anytime really during the day that's available to you, and you need to have your complete lesson plan ready, all lesson plan materials, PowerPoints, worksheets, books, your assessment sample completed at a proficient level or the mastery category. Or meets level is what I'm going to say. Meets level. Okay. And then you need to, like I said, have that student achievement chart with the items complete from step 2 up here. Okay. I'm not going to talk to you about that pre-conference guide. I don't really follow it. I mean, I know what's in there and we just go through the whole thing. But if you want to kind of see what the pre-conference might be like, I guess you could look at that guide. Step 4 is you actually delivering the lesson. It needs to be recorded. Okay, we've been using people's cell phones, and I have a tripod that we can put on it. I've also ordered microphones that can be synced up with your cell phone. If you have a problem with your phone or whatever and you can't record, just let me know in enough time and we'll come up with a different plan. But it seems to be easiest for y'all to do this. Then you're going to actually deliver the lesson while I'm observing and you are video recording. And then you're going to collect the assessment from all students at the end of the lesson for scoring and analysis. Now, sometimes they're not totally done at the end of the lesson, and so we might need to make arrangements for that, especially with your student achievement chart. But you can also do some assessment of work when it's not completely done. You could see whether they are on the road to using texture or line properly after one session of making. Okay. Step 5 is a self-evaluation. So you're going to score student work and complete the remainder of the student achievement chart. You're also going to upload the video recording of your lesson being taught, and you're going to put it in your art education portfolio. You're going to document evidence and score the lesson based on your observation rubric. I've got that over here. You're going to score yourself. You're going to watch that video and you are going to assess yourself. Okay. And select an area of strength and an area of growth and actionable next steps to address both these areas. So what did you do really well? What do you need to do better? And then what are your steps to make sure that you keep doing the really good thing and that you do better on the next thing or on the thing that's weak, right? On your refinement area. You're going to need to be prepared to explain your selections based on observable evidence and student achievement. Okay, so the observable evidence comes from your video, and then the student achievement is their work in your student achievement chart. Okay, then we meet up after you do all that preparation and that self-evaluation. We meet up for the post-conference, usually again online. You are expected to take notes and document your areas of strength and growth as well as next steps. Bring all materials required to the post-conference. Okay, so all that stuff from step 5. I'm gonna add that in. Okay. And then these are just, again, more documents, but you can, for the most part, ignore those at the bottom, except for the full pop cycle packet that has that student achievement chart. Okay. So I am going to create a quick quiz that I want you to take, and it's going to help make sure that you watch this video and that you also looked at this document so that you know what is required of you for the pop cycle process. Thanks for your time, everyone. Please let me know if you have any questions.